Hello guys, welcome back. Today, I'm going to be doing my final predictions for the 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, the last time I did this, I made a couple of mistakes when it comes to the format details and a couple of other small things, so I wanted to redo some of my predictions for the qualifying round and so on, and I'm just saying right now, I have a different prediction today for who I think will win the 2020 Stanley Cup, so stay tuned for that. But of course, with this video, who do I predict to actually win the 2020 Stanley Cup, and who do I predict to also win each qualifying round series? Watch till the end for all my predictions and picks, and of course, hit that big red subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Now, the couple of mistakes I made in that last predictions video wasn't really anything too major. The big one was the games played, and I made that video before the official details on each round were announced, so I just assumed that it would be a best of 3 in the qualification round. Obviously, we know now it'll be a best of 5 in that round, and then the rest of the rounds will be a best of 7. So obviously, I'm going to factor that now into my predictions, and it caused a little bit different results as well. So we're going to get straight into that in the qualifying round, which is where we'll start out with my predictions for the 2020 playoffs. And I'm going to start out in the Eastern Conference with our first matchup between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think it's going to be a one that will be closer than people do expect, but in the end, I see the Maple Leafs winning this one in 4. It will be a close series, but I see Toronto getting it in the end. Next up, going to the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Montreal Canadiens. And personally, I'm rooting for the Habs to get Alexis Lafreniere, so I'll have a little bit of bias in this prediction, but I do see the Pittsburgh Penguins winning this one quite handily. I see the Habs winning 1 game, mostly because of Carey Price, but besides that, I see the Penguins winning in 4 and not really having too much competition. Then going on to the New York Islanders versus the Florida Panthers, and if I'm going to be honest, besides the Panthers side of view, I'm not really too excited to see this playoff matchup, at least compared to some other matchups in the East, but I still think it will be a good one. In the end, I see the New York Islanders winning this one in 3, sweeping the Florida Panthers. I just see the Islanders' defensive system kind of being a great matchup against the Panthers, and I don't really have too much confidence in Sergei Bobrovsky if you haven't really noticed already. And then going on to our last matchup in the East for the qualifying round, we have the Carolina Hurricanes versus the New York Rangers, and this is a one that I think will be an absolute brawl to the very end. I really want to see every game of this series, and I think it will be amazing. I think it's actually the first game of the playoffs will be this series as well, so not bad timing on the NHL's part. But I do see this one actually going to the New York Rangers. I remember I predicted that the same thing in the last video, but I see the Rangers being a pretty tough matchup for the Carolina Hurricanes as they've been over the past few years, and I just see, especially if they were to start a guy like Igor Shesterkin, him really working well in this year's playoffs. Again, I don't see it being an absolute sweep by the Rangers, but I do see them winning it in 5, being a very close series, but the Rangers moving on. And then we can now go on to the Western Conference, and starting us out is the Calgary Flames versus the Winnipeg Jets, the all-Canadian battle here. And I do see this being a pretty good series, but I do see the Winnipeg Jets getting over the Calgary Flames. I see the Jets as a pretty good matchup for the Flames, or I guess vice versa, I would say. I just see the Winnipeg Jets doing really well in this series. I think Connor Hellebuck's going to continue his almost MVP-like season and pretty much just trounce the Flames. To me, until Calgary can actually perform in the playoffs, I don't have much hope from them. And if they're even close to what they were last year in the playoffs, I don't think it's going to be too much of a competition. Then going on to the next series between the Edmonton Oilers and the Chicago Blackhawks. And as a guy who doesn't like the Blackhawks, I'm not sure what I would like to see less, them getting Alexis Lafreniere or them moving on in the playoffs. It's really a lose-lose for me, but I do see the Edmonton Oilers losing this one. Actually, losing. No, I see the Edmonton Oilers winning this one. I don't know what happened there, but we'll just forget about that. I see the Edmonton Oilers winning this one in 4. I see the Blackhawks actually being a pretty good opponent for the Oilers in terms of competitiveness. I think this is going to be a pretty great series, and I would not discount guys like Kane, Taves, Duncan Keith, and Crawford. They now have a lot more rest now, and I think will be a lot more energetic in that series than some people might expect. Then going on to the next series we have right here between the Vancouver Canucks and the Minnesota Wild. Now, originally in my playoff predictions video, I kind of had Vancouver. I think I had Vancouver sweeping the Wild, and I don't see that happening anymore, but I still see the Canucks winning this one in 4. That rhymed. I'm sorry about that. It just is the way it is. But I see the Canucks really having a great series here. I think Elias Pettersson is going to be absolutely fantastic alongside Quinn Hughes. I think Jacob Markstrom is going to continue to play very well for the Canucks. And I see it being a close, especially a close series through every game, but I still see the Canucks getting the best of the Wild. And then we can go on to the last series in this qualifying round between the Nashville Predators and the Arizona Coyotes. And in the last one, I predicted the Preds to win this series, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm interested to see Arizona, and the more I think Arizona is going to win this series. And if I had to predict right now, I will say Arizona wins it in 5. Now, the main reason because of this is Darcy Kuemper. If he doesn't show up, then I think the Predators absolutely win this one. But one of the main reasons why the Coyotes kind of sucked down the stretch once they got Taylor Hall was that Darcy Kuemper was injured, and he was their MVP all season. But I think that defense is strong, it's solid, and Darcy Kuemper had one of the best seasons of any goaltender when he was healthy. And if that offense can score a little bit of goals per game, I think they have a pretty good chance of winning versus the Preds and actually advancing on to round 1. Now, of course, before we get into that first round and technically the playoff teams, we first need to talk about the round robin. Of course, the top 4 teams through each conference, the West and the East, will be battling against each other one time to determine seeding. Now, in the Eastern Conference, I see the Bruins getting number 1, followed by the Flyers, the Caps, and then the Lightning. And in the West, I see the Colorado Avalanche getting number 1, followed by the Blues, the Stars, and the Vegas Golden Knights. And that is really, really important for seeding because that determines who the qualifying round teams will face in that first round. Now, in the Eastern Conference, we start out with those implications and start out with a huge series between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins. And, I mean, even as a guy who likes the Leafs, until they win versus the Boston Bruins, I don't know if I have too much hope. So I'm going to say the Bruins win this in 6. Not 7, because, I mean, I don't hate the Leafs that much, but I think the Bruins will get it done fairly quickly. I just don't see the Leafs getting it done. Maybe next year, but I don't know if it's this year, to be honest. Now going on to the next matchup in the East between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it just continues to be amazing matchup with amazing matchup, and this one is definitely one to watch. To me, even though I like the Lightning quite a bit, I think the Pittsburgh Penguins will win this series, and it kind of sucks because both teams are pretty solid teams here, but one has to go, and I think the Pittsburgh Penguins, especially over the last couple weeks, we've heard Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and their messages to teammates saying, hey, we're winning this 4th Stanley Cup, and you better be on this ride. I think the Penguins do mean business, and I think they will win versus the Lightning here. Then going on to the next series, we have the Philadelphia Flyers versus the New York Islanders. And to me, I really like the Philadelphia Flyers' chances of going far in this playoffs. In the last prediction video, I had them winning the Stanley Cup. Obviously, I'm not sure if they'll get up to that point this time around, but I think they're a great, solid team, and I think they will win against the New York Islanders. I think they will win in 7 games. I don't think the Islanders are going to win this one, but I don't see them being a pushover either. Extending it to 7 games, a super close and tense series throughout. And then we go on to the last series in the East between the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers. And personally, as a guy who really is interested to see what the Rangers do in these playoffs, out of any of those top 4 playoff teams or top teams in the East, I think the Washington Capitals are the best matchup for the New York Rangers. And I think the New York Rangers have a really solid chance of getting past the Caps. Now, I think it really does depend on goaltending, because if Igor Shesterkin were to absolutely be amazing in these playoffs, I think the Rangers have a fantastic chance. And the same thing goes for the Caps. If Braden Holtby can kind of realize his 2018 self, I think they have a pretty good chance of going far. But I see the Caps kind of floundering a little bit in this series. I don't see Braden Holtby really being up to that amazing level that he was a couple of years ago, especially this regular season where he was not all too good. And I see the New York Rangers actually winning this series in 7. I see it being a really close series for the Rangers when it comes to goaltending and offense at points, kind of getting over the edge of the Washington Capitals. And again, it will be very close. I think all games will be like 1-goal games, but I think the Rangers, hot take, will win this series. Now, the great matchups just start out amazing with the Western Conference. First, getting us started is the Colorado Avalanche versus the Winnipeg Jets, and I see this as a pretty solid series. I don't see the Jets winning it, obviously, but I see the Avalanche kind of having a little bit of a hard time getting past the Jets. In the end, though, I still see them winning in 5. I think their offense is going to absolutely obliterate that defense, and poor Connor Hellebuyck, man, he deserves a better defense around him. Then going on to the next matchup between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers, and this one I go back and forth on it because I had these two teams meeting up in the second round in my last predictions video, and I didn't know what to predict, and I still don't know what to predict because both of these teams have so much to offer. When it comes to Edmonton, you got the amazing star power in Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, and I think their goaltending this season, Mikko Koskinen might even be better than Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury had a pretty rough season, and I see that being a reason why the Oilers win this series. To me, I'm just not really too convinced with Fleury, especially after the last playoffs where he really wasn't all too impactful for me. And this regular season was just kind of poor, all things considered. I think Edmonton with Connor McDavid, with Leon Draisaitl, just dominate that team. And even though I love these the Vegas Golden Knights, I see the Oilers winning this one right now in 6. Then going on to the next series between the St. Louis Blues and the Vancouver Canucks, and I like the Canucks' chances to beat the Wild, but I'm really not sure about their chances to beat a team like the St. Louis Blues. I see the Blues winning this one in 5. I see the Canucks winning a game, which I think is a pretty good accomplishment. They made it to the playoffs, but you're not getting past the St. Louis Blues. I'm sorry. Then we can now go into the last Western Conference matchup between the Dallas Stars and the Arizona Coyotes. And in my predictions, I guess the Arizona Coyotes just don't want great rivalries right here because it would have been a lot better, in my opinion, with the Stars versus the Preds in that matchup. But I think this was one that Dallas just absolutely clobbers through. I think they win this series in 4. As a Stars fan, obviously, I am biased there, but I think their offense wakes up against the Coyotes' defense. I think the goaltending, Ben Bishop, might just have the edge over Kemper. And I think even though they're pretty similar teams, Dallas is just better in every way, in my opinion, and has a lot more playoff experience as well. Now, the amazing matchups just continue on to the second round, and starting out in the East, we have the Boston Bruins versus the Pittsburgh Penguins, and obviously with the Bruins, the team that was far and alone the best team in the regular season, and then you have the Pittsburgh Penguins, who obviously have the Crosby, the Malkin effect, but I think have a real chance to upset some people in these playoffs and go pretty far. To me, it is going to go to 7 games, and I think the Penguins will pull off the little upset here and win this one in 7 games. To me, I think goaltending is going to be a lot better in these playoffs. If they go with Jari, I think he's going to have a strong playoffs. And I think Murray also, with some added rest, finally, I think we will have a pretty good chance of doing a lot better too. And I think for the Boston Bruins, you know, you lose in the second round, it would still be tough, but I still think the team like the Pittsburgh Penguins would be one of the tougher matchups for them, I would say, and I think the Penguins would win this series. Then going on to the next matchup in the East, we have the Philadelphia Flyers versus the New York Rangers, and I see the Rangers kind of upsetting a team like the Washington Capitals, but I don't see them getting past the Philadelphia Flyers. I see the Flyers winning this one in 5. I just see them kind of being better than the Rangers in every single way in that series, in offense, in depth, in defense especially, and goaltending. I also see Carter Hart potentially being better than Shesterkin in that playoff series. I still think the Rangers would win a series or win a game in that series, but I see the Flyers winning that one in 5. Then we can now go on to the Western Conference matchups. First, starting us out is the Colorado Avalanche versus the Edmonton Oilers, and this would just be absolutely sick. You have Connor McDavid with Nathan MacKinnon, arguably the two best centers in the league today. Then you have all these different stories. In the end, I think the Avalanche win this one, though. It'll be a really close series, but I see the Avalanche winning this one in 7. I still think the star power for the Oilers is going to do great in that series, but I think the Colorado Avalanche will kind of stifle them just a little bit. Then going on to the last series in this second round between the St. Louis Blues and the Dallas Stars, and every time I do these predictions, man, whether it be last season or this season, the Stars always end up facing the St. Louis Blues. I can't have nice things I really cannot. In the end, though, even though I'm a biased Stars fan, I don't see them winning against the Blues. I see this roster and this team in general being a lot more inconsistent and just a little bit worse than last year's team, and I see the Blues winning this one in 5. Sure, the Stars will win a game, but I don't even know if they push it to 7 this time around. I'm sorry. But now we can get into the conference finals in the East and the West. And starting us out in the Eastern Conference, we have the Philadelphia Flyers versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I mean, I didn't predict this to make it end up this way, but it ended up pretty perfect, I would say. This would be the series of the playoffs. Both of these teams already have such a fantastic rivalry, and you put them in the Eastern Conference, you have these two teams fighting it out to go to the Stanley Cup Final. I think there would be some major brawls, some major action, and every single game would be must-watch hockey. To me, in the end, though, even though I really like the Flyers' chances, and I predicted them to win the Stanley Cup Final last time around, I see the Pittsburgh Penguins actually doing fairly well against the Flyers, and I see it going to Game 7, but I see the Penguins winning. I just think with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and all those guys that have such great playoff experience, and with the added rest they've had over the past few months, I think it's going to do them some really good. That did not make any sense at all. But I still think the Flyers will end up losing this one, and the Penguins will move on to the Stanley Cup Final with the chance to get 4 Stanley Cups with that current core. And then you go on to the Western Conference Final, and the team who will face the Penguins in the Stanley Cup Final between the Colorado Avalanche and the St. Louis Blues. And just like a lot of other series, I go back and forth on this thing because I think the St. Louis Blues are just a fantastic, from top to down, depth team that can just beat you in every way, but the Colorado Avalanche have some amazing star power with some great young forwards coming up, a solid defense, especially led by Cale Makar, and I think the goaltending can be pretty sneaky, even if it is, in my opinion, a little bit of a weakness. But in the end, I see the St. Louis Blues winning against the Colorado Avalanche. I think they're just better in almost every single way. I would say the Avalanche have them kind of beat in star power, but in terms of depth, especially defensively, it is not even close. Forward-wise, I would give them that advantage there too. Defensively, I think the St. Louis Blues are one of the best in the league. Now, a good way you can tell that I'm not being biased in my predictions is that I don't like either of these teams. I really don't. The St. Louis Blues are like 30th out of number 31. As a Stars fan, that shouldn't really surprise all of you. And with the Pittsburgh Penguins, I mean, it's just a reason of success. I just want to see other teams win the Stanley Cup for once. And the Pittsburgh Penguins kind of, you know, won a lot. So just like the team like the LA Kings, it kind of goes against them a little bit. But I mean, at the same time, this would still be a fantastic series for the final. And I think this will be one that will really test the likes of a Sidney Crosby, will really test the likes of an Evgeny Malkin, because the Blues have a great shot of repeating again, I think. But I think in the end, I think with the Pittsburgh Penguins and what they provide, I think the playoff experience, even though the Blues won the Cup, I still think that core for the Penguins might just win one more. And I am really shocked that I'm predicting this, because a year ago I said the Penguins just would not get another Cup. But with the way they played to start that season and the way they played, even after Jake Guentzel was injured, there were some rough spots there. But adding Guentzel to that team, I think Murray will be fully rested and fully healthy, and I think he'll play well. And again, you have a fully rested, fully healthy Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby. To me, that is absolutely dangerous, and I don't think the St. Louis Blues will get past that. I think the Pittsburgh Penguins will win this 1-6 and win their 4th Stanley Cup with that core. Again, I don't want it to happen, but it's the way I see it happening right now. But there you have it. Those are my predictions for the 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs. Let me know in the comments what you agree and disagree with. And also let me know who you think will win the Stanley Cup this year. Let me know all your thoughts down in those comments down below. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Really helps the channel out if you haven't. And of course, make sure you share this video with friends. Get it out there, boys. Get the predictions out there. And click on this card for all my predictions and picks videos right in one playlist. My voice just cannot do things today, so if you notice that throughout this video, I'm sorry about that. My name is Nathan. I love y'all faces, and I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.